Welcome to another episode of Everything Intellectual Property. Today, we have a very special guest with us. This gentleman has invented a grill that was designed to cook anything right in the middle of your table while you're surrounded by your loved ones. Please help me welcome the founder of Bola Grill's, David Levy. How's it going, David?
Hey, Dave, thank you so much for having me on.
No, absolutely. I appreciate you giving me some time. I know we have quite a bit of a time change being on the East Coast and then you being on the West Coast there, but I'm glad we were able to kind of figure it out. And I know where I was telling you offline a little bit that I'm excited for this one for a number of reasons. I love grilling and, well, I guess I shouldn't say I'm probably the best cook at it, but as I was looking and doing some research, I'm like, this actual grill gives me hope, and I'm more of a novice griller. But just kind of looking at it and the simplicity of it and you can have it on your tabletop and all that stuff and how you can cook different things on it. And it seems so straightforward and simple to operate. This actually gave me a little hope. So I'm definitely strongly looking to kind of get one and kind of seeing how it tests out for myself. And it may make me, I guess, someone who not only loves to eat grill food, but actually prepare it. Because right now, if I prepare, I want to be the person at the barbecue preparing the food from the grill, but that may be changed with your device here. So I guess, with all that being said, can you maybe kind of give us a description of the grill? And I do also have some pictures as well to show, but for the audience, as we get off into it, can you first maybe kind of describe the grill?
Yeah, so it is a tabletop safe grill. That's really what makes it unique. When I created this product, I didn't want to compete with it seems like millions of other grills that are out there. Grilling is a unique thing in the sense that it is considered an appliance, but, when you think of appliances like a microwave, people don't have multiple microwaves, right? Or a toaster or an oven. But when it comes to grills, people have multiple grills, and it's because they serve different purposes. So this one, for example, it sits on your table and it's for grilling things while you're surrounded by the ones you love. So I'm not going to use this grill for a 10-hour smoke of a brisket or something like that. Yeah. So it is unique in that sense. And it was created really, first of all, to be safe on a table, but also to cook anything that you could think of that you'd want to eat with the people that you love, right on the table and, surrounded by those people that you love.
Nice. And I guess another one of those things that I love about it is I guess multifunctional, if you will. I know you talked about grills being used for different things, and I have a cousin who's a big griller, and he has 3 or 4 different grills, which kind of right to your point. But even this one, with it just being one grill, you can easily cook a lot of different things. Can you maybe talk about that a little bit?
Sure, yeah. So the grill itself, there are 2 versions of it. There's a basic version, then there's a more advanced version. The more advanced version, we call it the Bola Grill Master. And what that does, it has 2 grilling surfaces. One is an open grill grate. So you could cook, burgers, hot dogs, things like that you would see on a normal grill. The other grill surface is a griddle. So it's it's almost like a pan. You could cook bacon, you could cook pancakes, eggs, anything that you'd be able to cook on a regular pan. You could do that simultaneously, and then it comes with a lid as well. And then to make it even more versatile, we offer a bunch of different attachments. A couple of them, one is just skewers that can fit perfectly on the grill. And one is a Dutch oven, which allows you to do things like frying, baking, boiling, and things like that. So really, this grill, the whole idea of it is to allow you to cook anything you could think of on your table.
Well, and that's man, that, like I said, this one definitely gives me hope as far as me kind of getting on the grill and not making a fool of myself. So I guess, what was the inspiration? Because I kind of read that you were you love the grill and have a passion for it. What was the inspiration to say, okay, I want to create a grill that kind of serves maybe a different functions as you just talked about here? What was that inspiration behind it?
Yeah, so I'll start with when I first got into my own house. This was about 5 years ago. My wife and I got into a house for the first time in my life. I was actually a homeowner. And it was the first time in my life that I had my own backyard. And so the first thing I did was get a gas grill, which most people do, right? About over 70% of Americans own a grill. So it's a very common thing. I got into it, was cooking hot dogs, hamburgers, the most basic things you could do on a grill. Once I started getting more into that and enjoying that, I started doing research as to how can I get my grill game even stronger and go to things that are even more complicated, like ribs and briskets and things like that. So I got a smoker, and then slowly my collection just started growing. Actually, like I said, over 70% of Americans have grills. Of that amount of people, about 30% have multiple grills. If you look at the American population, that's still a massive amount of people that own, it's in the tens of millions that own multiple grills.
Sure.
So my collection grew. I had about 4 grills. My wife was kind of freaking out on me, like, what's going on? This is a very expensive collection here that's just building up. So the way I thought of this idea in particular, we love to host, and we had people over one day, and we were sitting at the table outside, and I was on the grill, and they were getting into really good conversation at the table. And so I found myself missing out. I was off to the side, and so I was going back and forth, table, grill. And every time I was at the table, I'm like, all right, I'm into this. I'm with my wife, our friends. I don't want to have to be going back and forth. And there was one time in particular, I sat for too long, went back and checked the grill, and the food had burnt. And so I was thinking about it, and I was like, man, I wish that I could have cooked this meal right on the table, because then I wouldn't have this issue.
Yep.
And I started looking around online for tabletop grills, and I found that they do exist, but they were very basic. And like I said, I already own 4 grills. I have a very versatile collection of things that I could already cook. But a lot of that I wasn't able to do with what was on the market already. So right away I was like, I think there's an opportunity here to create a much more versatile tabletop grill than what already exists. And so I started coming up with ideas and drawing it on napkins, literally like what people say that they do.
Yep.
And then researching, how do I had zero experience creating a product. So how do I get from A to Z? And that's where it started.
No, and that's actually pretty cool. So then, I guess based on all that, like, what were you doing beforehand? Because like you said, you had kind of zero experience with kind of creating a product. And I'm assuming that, again, you talked about you kind of just being married and kind of buying a home. So I would imagine that you were doing something else that kind of allow you to kind of pay the bills and kind of just brought in money in general. I guess what were you doing before saying, okay, I'm going to kind of develop this grill or design this grill?
Yeah. So I work in construction.
Okay.
I'm kind of in a little real estate in general, but my main day-to-day is construction. And it involves, what I do. I work for a company that we build from the ground up. So I'm involved very early on. And actually, like, while we're on the subject, I did find parallels between building a house and creating a product, in the sense that you start, when you're building a house, you start with the architect. That's basically the same thing as a product designer, just designing a house and not a product. Then you move on to engineering. And it's the same thing with a product, going from designer to engineer. And then, obviously with a product, you go into manufacturing. With a house, there are many different contractors involved.
For sure. Yeah.
But I did find parallels, which was interesting. But that did allow me to pay the bills. And I will say that I launched this product on July 1st. So it's been almost exactly a month. I can't do that full time. It wouldn't sustain me right now because I just launched. So I am still, my day-to-day does still involve construction. And I'm back and forth between construction site and, a storage facility where I keep my product, and an office where I'm printing my labels. And so it's a crazy, my schedule right now is crazy. I'm basically just juggling a lot, trying to make this a full-time thing.
But no, and a few things that you said there that I love, especially for the audience as they kind of are maybe deciding or trying to determine whether or not they're going to kind of get off into the whole entrepreneurship thing, or just even IP to have an ideal of a product or a service that they want to provide, is number one, you can use your life experiences. It seems like you use those to your advantage when it came to designing a grill, whether it was your love for actually grilling, but also construction and some of the other experience in real estate that you were able to use for kind of learning how to maybe develop a product or kind of go through the process for the grill, which oftentimes we have experiences in our life that from working or a job or whatever the case may be that we can actually use when it's time to kind of be an entrepreneur or kind of develop some type of a product. And then I guess the second thing that you talked about is, hey, being able to kind of do both at the same time, at least at this point in time. Maybe it's a day where the grills are just kind of selling off the shelves and it's like, okay, I need to focus on this full time. But at this point in time, you're doing both. And I think that's especially in 2024 where your situation may be different from a construction standpoint, but a lot of kind of jobs are not as guaranteed as it was maybe back in the day where you were working 20, 25 years and then retiring with a pension. With the layoffs and things like that, things can kind of get, things can do a 180 quick as it relates to a job and just kind of working and whatnot. So it is possible, as you have shown, to, okay, while you're working and kind of doing your day job, you can also kind of have this hobby or side project or side business going on at the same time and continuing to look to grow it and develop it. So I think that's something that I guess I love to hear, and I guess more people, at least in my opinion, should hear that just because they think that, okay, I got to quit everything and focus. Like, no, don't do that. I would advise not to do that. At least get things to the point where it's like, okay, you can sustain yourself and whatnot before, if you ever do decide to quit, make sure you can sustain kind of your lifestyle and whatnot based on your, I guess, what you create in your business around that kind of product before you kind of quit your day job. So in effect,
exactly. It definitely doesn't happen overnight. You know, you gotta put in the work, and then eventually, like you said, when they're flying off the shelves, then, you know, at that point, I know, like, okay, I could sustain myself, I could support my family. But if I were to quit my main source of income right now, it would be problematic.
For sure.
I can't just be breaking even. You know, I need to be having some sort of income to keep going.
Yep. No. And again, some companies, at least at the beginning, they're kind of making a ton of money to the point where they can do that. But it's kind of depend on kind of what you're doing in your industry and whatnot. I know you talked about kind of a long time coming or a long process. And actually, that was a good segue into the journey of it all, because you talked about, at least kind of as I was doing research and listening to you on other podcasts, talked about the 2+ years of kind of designing and developing a product, but also, with 5+ different metal combinations and things like that. So can you talk about kind of what went into the, number one, designing everything, but also what prevented you from saying, okay, man, I give up. This is too hard. It's taking too long. Because I know a lot of people who 6 months down the line, if they didn't have anything to show or sell, they would have been like, the heck with this. I'm kind of going to go focus on my job. So what made you kind of maybe not give up during those times? Because you went through some tough times, as I'm pretty sure you will share as far as your stories.
Yes, definitely. So yeah, I would say it's about to be 2 years since I came up with the idea. The first part of my journey, and I'm happy that I'm able to talk to your guests about this because I have learned a ton in the last 2 years, coming from someone that had zero product development knowledge, and now I'm definitely not an expert, but I have learned a lot. Anyways, the first thing I did, basically Googled companies that can help me create a product and take it from, A to Z in terms of design, development, and going all the way to manufacturing. While I'm at this point talking about this, I will say that I highly recommend not going this route because it's more expensive. When a company can say they do everything, you don't need that. You're just going to pay an extra, they're going to tack on their fees to every single part of it. And then, you just kind of put all of your trust in them, and this is your baby. And I just don't recommend doing that. And I'll share a little bit as to why. But this is where I started. I hired a company, they did the design, they did the engineering, and then they connected me with a manufacturer after all of that. The manufacturer that they connected me with, that was the biggest mistake in this journey. And it resulted in a lot of wasted money and, more importantly, wasted time. I wasted about a year with this particular manufacturer. So they were this manufacturer is located in India. They specialize in stainless steel. They're actually located next door to the Whirlpool factory, which is like a big appliance. I don't know if you've heard of Whirlpool, but it kind of gave me
That's
some
like Kalamazoo, West Side. Well, I know they have a Whirlpool. I think they have a spot here in Michigan on the west side of the state in Kalamazoo, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they're huge, and their factory's in India. And so I thought, all right, my factory is going to be right next door to them. They must know what they're doing. I don't know. Anyways, they working with this manufacturer. So they sent me the first sample. There were a lot of things wrong with it, and it scared the hell out of me. And I was like, okay, I've never done this before. Is this normal that the first sample is this bad? So I basically went through a checklist and try to correct everything with them. Sample number 2 came, screws were loose, handles were broken. The paint job was so sloppy. I was like, man, this is really scary because I'm really deep into this journey right now. And I can't just invest a ton of money into inventory and risk people getting products that are damaged, and it's going to kill me. I'll have bad reviews. The business is going to go nowhere. So it took about 5 samples that they had sent me, like over each sample took a month or 2. So they corrected what I had told them was wrong. By about the 5th sample, it was one of the most difficult decisions of my life, where I had to decide if I was going to pull the plug on this manufacturer and just stop the business, and just be done, or if I was going to actually pursue a different manufacturer. So it was a really hard decision, but I remember I sent them an email and I said, you guys, I can't get to where I want to be with you guys. It's taking way too long. I wanted to launch, this was last summer. I wanted to launch in the summer because it's a seasonal product.
Yep.
But I was already seeing we're going to miss the summer. And then maybe if they could perfect the grill, it's going to be ready in the winter, which, that's not right.
Right.
So, I decided to pull the plug and talk to my wife about it. And we had seen, a lot of people seemed interested. And so I made the difficult decision to basically start over with a new manufacturer.
Well, now, what was their, response to that email? Did they okay, I understand. I would imagine that they tried to kind of not talk you off the ledge, so to speak.
Oh, yeah. And they were like, no, we could do this. We just need to get it right. Once we get it right, it's going to be fine. But talking to other manufacturers, one guy was telling me, you should probably have 2 or 3 samples max before you get to the one that you consider what they call a golden sample, which is the one that you want to go with. But to have 5 samples where each one is supposed to be better and better and better, and to still have issues, that was a big problem.
Yeah, that's not looking good.
Yeah. So it was really, really tough. But yeah, I pulled the plug and I decided to restart. And so that's part of what took so long to finally get this product to market.
Wow, no, yeah, that's definitely a heck of a story. But it seems like, and this is kind of cool, if you could share, another manufacturer had already reached out to you, from my understanding, that you was like, maybe you didn't kind of engage that manufacturer because you had went with the not so good manufacturers, but you kind of pivoted, and when you restarted, turned around and reached out to them, and it seems like that ended up working out. So was that kind of how that played out?
Sure, yeah. So one thing I didn't mention, I did a crowdfunding campaign, which, again, to your listeners, I would highly recommend doing a crowdfunding campaign because you're able to sell the idea, and people will actually buy not your product, but your idea,
Did you? And I've had, and sorry to cut you off, but I've had a number of guests who did the Kickstarters or the Indiegogo's or whatnot.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they had a product, but they just were just kind of trying to get it out there and see the level of interest in it before they actually kind of got the product manufactured. So did you
Yeah.
already kind of have what it would look like before you did
Yeah.
the campaign?
So at this point, when I did the crowdfunding campaign, I was just starting with the manufacturer.
Okay.
So just starting, and I put it out there on the crowdfunding campaign. I used, when you do those campaigns, you can't use renderings. So I actually created a non-functional prototype. I didn't do it myself. I found some college students actually on a Facebook group that, that's their thing. They create prototypes. And so I had them, my product is a very basic shape, even though it's like pretty complicated in terms of functionality. The shape of it is pretty basic. And so I was able to create a non-functional prototype. Obviously, it was not tabletop safe. So the way that I made my media, video and photos for the crowdfunding campaign, I was grilling off to the side and then taking that food and putting it on the prototype. And so that's how I shot it. And I was able, it was pretty successful. I sold 94 grills in 30 days.
Wow.
With like, not a crazy amount of advertising going in. So I definitely, through the crowdfunding campaign, I was able to see that there was interest in the product.
For sure.
That's really what kept me going, even when I stopped working with the first manufacturer.
So, and I guess this is an interesting question. So, as you said, the first manufacturer obviously didn't work out, but these people have bought, I'm assuming they have bought the grill. So do you have to refund that money back, or do you just tell them, hey, it's going to be a little longer? How does that work with the whole crowdfunding campaign?
So I will say with crowdfunding, I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. So for whoever's listening, don't just think that you could put something on there and you're magically going to sell a bunch of stuff. There's a lot of work that goes into it. But one of the things that you do need to realize is that the people that are buying this product or your product doesn't exist yet, they're buying your idea. They need to have trust and faith that this is eventually going to get delivered to them. And so they just want honesty. And, these are unique people in the sense that they're willing to take a little bit of a risk here.
Sure.
They're buying products at a major discount, but it doesn't exist yet. And so they are very understanding. And so when I pulled the plug on the manufacturer, I sent a very honest message to the backers. So about 94 people. And I sent them a very honest message telling them that I don't want to ship, like I could ship them what I have, but they wouldn't be happy with it. And I don't want to risk that. And people were very understanding of it. From 94 people, actually only one wanted a refund.
Really?
So, yeah. But I did get on the phone with some of them. Like I really tried to calm them and tell them like, this is coming, but it's going to take some time. And yeah, they actually, they waited almost a full year because I originally wanted it to be delivered in May of 2023. And then it wasn't available until July 1st of 2024. So
over a year. So yeah, that's cool. I see like you have I guess a decent size contingent who's kind of loyal to the cause, which is cool. I guess interesting because it seems like kind of this is the perfect product. I know you said you just launched July 1st, kind of going into, me being a big football guy, tailgating and things like that. Has that kind of, have you got any feedback on, okay, this being a good like tailgating grill?
Yeah. So, definitely. I've heard tailgating, I've heard camping. It is very portable. But like I kind of mentioned earlier in the podcast, I don't want to compete with like the portable grills that are out there that are being made by companies like Weber, right? I'm never gonna. That's a Weber is, I think they're valued at like $3 billion or something crazy. I'm never gonna take them out ever. I've accepted that, but so what my focus is on more like the tabletop lane. So tailgating is great because you have tables set up, or if it's on the back of a truck, it's very safe.
Right.
So it's great for something like that. Camping, as long as it's not like the really rugged camping where you don't have access to a table, then, it wouldn't really be great on the ground unless it's like really flat. But really, like, the point of this is to bring people around you and enjoy a meal with this,
For sure.
like a steak sizzling, like
Yep.
with everyone around you. That's what I'm going for.
No, yeah, for sure. And again, like,
Yeah.
I can't think of anything like that. Typically, the grill is off over there somewhere, and
Yeah.
everybody else is around the table over here. So to be able to merge that experience, and it seems like that'll almost, okay, you can enjoy the conversation of everyone, but now everybody's actually really smelling the food on the grill, which
Yeah.
is like another experience. Like, oh, this smells really good. They're kind of getting excited about the meal to come because they're actually smelling it without kind of having all this maybe unnecessary kind of smoke or having to feel like they're smelling like a grill, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I'm really glad you said that because one thing that I love about barbecue, it's an experience, right? And you have the smells. It's all your senses are involved, right? You're seeing like fire, which fire is beautiful. It's always, it's and you're seeing that, you're smelling. Obviously, like it's food cooking. Like the sizzling that you're hearing. It's really like an experience. And this grill actually allows everyone to be involved in that experience. And usually it's not like that. And the people that I've talked to about this product that are usually the guys that are grilling off to the side, it's great, but you're by yourself, and you're coming and you're joining everybody after the food is done cooking when you're like, man, I'm sweating. I'm like, I was out there by myself, it's usually like I enjoyed it because people love grilling, but I missed out on, family time or my time with my friends because I was off to the side. And so it is rewarding because, there are people that love grilling and they do, including myself. But when you could bring people around that and, like you said, have that experience alongside with you, it is pretty cool.
No, for sure. And then I guess maybe another question. I typically will reserve this question to the end, but since you got brought it up with Weber, from an exit strategy standpoint, it seems like, again, maybe you want to kind of continue to run this thing and grow this thing into a national powerhouse. But from an exit strategy, especially if Weber doesn't have anything that kind of fits fits within this line of grills in terms of tabletop grills, stuff like that. Maybe that's something, again, we'll talk about the IP here in a little bit, where they kind of purchase the rights to the IP, or maybe the company at that point, if that's something you're interested in down the line. So have you thought about that at all as relates to the exit strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like that would be the ultimate goal. I know that I'm not there yet. I'm just starting to get reviews, and things like that. So it's still very early. But like the immediate, or not immediate, but maybe the next year or two down the line, I would love to start getting into stores. So right now it's really just direct to consumer. I'm selling on the website. I actually put them up on Amazon because I feel like this could also be a good Amazon product. People searching tabletop grills. So I have it there. And yeah, sales are coming in. But I haven't reached out to any stores yet. And I think, once if I could grow this thing to the point where people are buying the product, maybe I add another grill to the collection, maybe I add more attachments, I'm able to do all these things and it becomes really like a brand. I would love to, at that point, maybe seek some sort of exit.
Well, man, you're definitely on the way. I actually, because I know you talked about, you haven't maybe mentioned it here yet, but I know on a prior interview, you kind of talked about the whole Bola and kind of how that's associated. That's already a name that's out there. Did you get a chance to maybe trademark that term as relates to grills, kind of going along that path of kind of creating this brand with the Bola Grill?
Yes. So I did trademark it.
Nice.
Yeah. And the term Bola actually comes from the gauchos, which were like the cowboys of South America in the 1800s. And the Bola was actually it was a weapon that they used. I'm sure you've seen it, but they would swing it around their head like when they're on the horses, and then throw it at the legs of the animals that they were trying to catch. And so it was like a hunting weapon.
Gotcha.
But this grill, it actually, so you're able to raise and lower the grilling surfaces, and it's actually known as a Santa Maria grill. That's like the style of grilling. If you were to Google Santa Maria grill, that's like, or an Argentinian grill, right?
Gotcha.
You're able to raise and lower the cooking surface so that very simple. You go closer to the fire, it gets hotter, further away from the fire, and it's like a lower heat. But that's where the name comes from.
Gotcha. So then I guess maybe going off into the part where maybe I'm very curious on from an IP perspective. I know we talked about trademarking the name Bola, which is great and is a form of intellectual property. Did you know about intellectual property coming into it? I know, again, you're on the construction side, on the real estate side, which maybe doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of IP, or at least on the past side of things, that is, I would imagine that's a part of those industries. But did you know a little bit about IP going into it, or was all that, similar to like product development and learning all this on the fly? Was that something that you had to learn on the fly as well?
Yeah, I learned all that on the fly, and I'm still learning it because it's not, it's very complicated stuff, but I didn't know anything about that. And there were a few different attorneys that I talked to, as we kind of spoke about early on in this call. It was not easy finding a good attorney. I found this one guy that was just so unresponsive and very short answers, and I was like, all right, this is not working out. And so I went to someone else, and I didn't know anything about it, but I did find someone that was kind of able to explain to me the big differences in how you could protect yourself from a utility standpoint or design. So I kind of got like a good feel for it, but like I said, it still feels complicated to me. And what's crazy to me is that, and I've heard a few people reference this, that like sometimes it comes down to the actual reviewer, right? And in the government or whoever's actually reviewing your submitted patent, right? I'm sure you would know, like, it could come down to the person reviewing it, whether they grant certain things or not.
That's definitely a big part of it, given the fact that you have an examiner at the USPTO, and hey, every examiner is different. They're just human. So, I'm different from you in terms of our kind of, we may be looking at the same thing, but our analysis, our thought process on that same thing may be differently. That's why you do have like appeals and things like that, to the point where if we're just not seeing it the same way and your way is unreasonable, then I can appeal it to get another set of eyes, maybe you're a supervisor, maybe an independent third party on it to review it. And to the extent that that's still an issue, I can appeal it to, the board at that point to have them. So there are checks and balances, but that initial review, it's definitely just an examiner on the other side, and they can see things differently from the way I see things, especially as it relates to the prior art, which kind of you go back and forth on. So I guess kind of maybe even backing up before that a little bit, what made you say, okay, I want to protect it? Because I know you said you're learning all this stuff, or kind of learning all this stuff on the fly and whatnot. But what, just that initial, like, okay, I need to protect it. Was that maybe a family or a friend, or was that, okay, I know enough about this thing that I need to protect it?
It was me, because I knew that when I created this product, I couldn't find anything out there that was even close. And so I knew that I wanted to protect this. There's a huge issue with knockoff products, and I see it all the time. And so I knew, like, I want to protect myself as best as I could.
For sure.
And so I actually started the protection process right before going to crowdfunding, because I knew, like, all right, I'm putting this out there to the masses. I even was advertising it at that point for people to buy in the crowdfunding campaign. So I knew, like, all right, I'm probably going to expose my idea now to thousands of people. And if I'm not protected, someone could just run with it.
Yep. And I definitely agree with that. I think you did the perfect thing with even protecting it before kind of hitting the crowdfunding campaign. Now, I guess, what did you look to protect? Because I think, again, I know you definitely have something on the design or a design pattern, but then I saw something about the skewer holder, that kind of the wave design of that maybe is something that you're looking to protect. I'm not sure if that was by way of a utility or a design, but I guess what exactly did you maybe file for patent protection on as it relates to the grill?
So it's all design right now.
Okay.
Different elements of the design. The utility was kind of complicated in the sense that a lot of what's out there already pretty much exists utility wise, but the way that it all comes together, that's kind of unique. And then, you know, certain shapes as well, like the skewer holder that you just mentioned. It is a wave design that does not exist on other grills that I've seen. And it's designed in a way that the skewers can fit in between those waves.
Yep.
And so I knew that that was something that, I don't know if people like that, because I love it and I love using it. And if people like that and it's not protected, then a bigger company can come in and be like, oh, this is cool, and take it if it's not protected. So that's one of the elements that is or at least we applied for. But right now it is patent pending, so I don't have actual patents yet. So I'm in that process of seeing like, what am I going to be able to patent.
So this is an interesting question. And like you said, it kind of gets a little bit more convoluted as it relates to, okay, the entire grill, maybe a system claim. And I guess what made you say, okay, I probably don't want to do that. And I guess the reason I'm saying it, because I know a lot of people, not a lot of people, but again, it's just kind of two people having different opinions, and both opinions can be reasonable. I remember vividly on Shark Tank, it was, and I interviewed her. Her name was Beth. She had the Busy Baby, a company called Busy Baby, where it kind of helps kids who are maybe newborns or infants, toddlers, things like that, where it's like a baby mat where they can eat on, but it has all these kind of different gadgets or whatnot. And I remember when she was on Shark Tank, she it was either Kevin or Rob. They're like, you would never get a patent on this thing when she said she filed it. And it was, again, hers was more of a system. I think it was Rob. It was more of a system claim, not because the individual pieces, like you said, maybe they were out there, but the way it was kind of combined into a system, that was what she believed was new. And I remember Rob telling her, like, you'll never get this, get a patent on this. And lo and behold, she got a patent on it, which was big. And she's kind of doing great things, selling a ton of these things. So I know a lot of people, and again, it's not a foolproof method, but if you do have an overall system that is kind of different, even though the individual components maybe are known, maybe it's something there. I'm not saying 100%, but it's definitely, it may be something there. But it seems like kind of regardless of that, you said, okay, let's just kind of focus on maybe the more sure thing at this point, which is the design patent as opposed to the utility on the overall grill or the system or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
So, exactly. Okay. No, that's cool. That's cool. So then I guess, and this is, in the U.S. at least, grilling is a big thing. Have you thought about, or have you had sales like abroad, internationally? Because I always kind of thinking about that as well as from a patent perspective, at least on my end, when someone comes to me and say, okay, we want to get a patent, I have to be thinking about, okay, are you going to eventually try to sell this thing internationally? And if so, what are the countries? Because maybe you want to look to try to file for patent protection in those countries so that you are protected. As kind of that analysis kind of came, or have you kind of considered those?
Actually, I appreciate you asking that question. I love that you did, because I've been on a few podcasts since I launched the business, and you're the first one that has asked me about that. Nice. So I haven't talked about this at all, but I do have someone that reached out to me from Japan, and in Japan they're big on grilling, and at the same time, a lot of them don't have houses. They live in apartments, and they have like little patios or balconies. And so the guy that found this grill, he thought that it would be like a perfect fit for the Japanese market. It's like a smaller portable grill. It's tabletop safe. So he's actually very interested in selling it. He has an e-commerce store, and nice. So we're actually in the midst of working something out. But what he plans to do is put it on a Japanese crowdfunding website. Actually, it's probably going to be done this month, actually. And depending on how that goes, if it sells well, or if the idea sells well, then he's going to order a whole bunch of them. So nice. This grill might be in the Japanese market like sometime soon. Yeah.
So how do you, because again, for those people who I guess maybe don't know, just because you have a U.S. patent, people think that you're protected everywhere. No, that U.S. patent is going to protect you here in the U.S., but that doesn't give you right. Well, you can sell your product anywhere regardless, but that doesn't give you right to be able to prevent others from selling it in different markets, whether it's China, whether it's Germany or other country in Europe, whether it's Japan, so forth and so on. So do you, to try to help out or prevent others from selling it in Japan, especially as it becomes popular, do you kind of maybe plan on trying to file for some type of similar protection design patent out there, or how do you kind of plan on?
Yeah, it's something that this is like a thought that just I'm going back and forth, how do I handle this? I do want to protect it. I've talked to some people that, no one that I've talked to that's been an expert in the field, but some people have said that even if you're patented, like in places like China, they'll still find a way. But if they want to knock you off, they'll still find a way. But I am interested actually. And it's something that I'm like actively exploring. I guess I should say I haven't done it yet, but I am actively exploring it.
No, yeah. I mean, again, and I think it becomes important because not only from a knockoff standpoint, it's just because somebody may knock you off, and China has gotten a lot better with being able to properly go after these infringers in China. And I've kind of had a number of people on this podcast that have been able to successfully kind of get judgments against infringers and get awarded money. And one guy, he showed me a picture where the Chinese equivalent of like a FBI went into the warehouse and were seizing all the stuff. They have been able to successfully enforce their patent their Chinese patent in China. So it seems like that those are helpful. But then also on the other side of things, to the extent we talked about Web or another kind of big company buying you, a lot of times that company want to, again, Dr. Dave Smith, who invented the Q collar that's worn by a lot of athletes on a professional level, he talked about it like, hey, if you don't have some type of your product protected, it's going to be tough to get investments. It's going to be tough for somebody to maybe buy the company if you don't have that kind of IP protected, just because it's like, okay, what are we buying? If we buy your product, but anybody can sell it, then why not just sell it without kind of buying the company? Now, obviously, you have something in terms of the brand name, Bola, that trademark. And so that would be helpful, but especially in those other markets, if somebody kind of sees it and wants to buy it, it just kind of helps your case to be able to get as much from the company as possible if they're kind of protected in those countries or those markets that they're being sold in. So I don't know. That seems like something to at least consider or think about.
I actually really appreciate you going into that, and thank you for sharing that, because I don't hear stories like that because I don't talk to a lot of people that are in that position. So no, I think you actually gave me some motivation to really push myself to do that. It's harder. I'm being honest right now, like with, I'm putting ads out there. There's a lot of money being spent. So part of me is like, do I want to dedicate the resources or the capital to, and that's a struggle, I guess, for everyone. But it is important. It is important.
It's a real thing. And it's a real thing in terms of, like you said, I'm already spending enough money marketing, manufacturing, like just trying to get this thing out there in the U.S. I've just done enough of these interviews as well as in my day-to-day life where you see the other side of things a year, 2 years down the line where this thing has picked up in China or Japan or some other country, but you see that you have a lot of infringers, but you can't do anything about it. And maybe you're cool with that, and that's cool as well. But at least to be able to consider it, to say, okay, if this happens, I may not be happy, but at least I knew about it and I actively chose to not do anything, as opposed to 2 years later, you're trying to do something and you're like, I didn't know. Why didn't anybody tell me? At least you were kind of informed. Now I'm just kind of big on being informed. I know Nightcap, another Shark Tank company that did a deal with Lori, and they are killing it in the U.S., but they were killing it. It was in some country in Europe. I want to say it was a country in Europe, but they missed the deadline to be able to file for patent protection. So now they had all these infringers, and it was such that you could tell they weren't too happy about it because it took a lot of their market share away because they couldn't do anything about their infringers because they didn't have it protected in that country. And it seems like and again, in their case, they didn't even know. Now, maybe if they would have known, they wouldn't have done anything about it. but at least maybe they would have felt a little bit better about it if they would have known, hey, I needed to file protection in this country if I wanted to kind of protect it in that country. So I'm just kind of big on being informed, and obviously you as the business owner are going to make that decision. And it's a tough decision to make because it's not like anybody's dealing with an infinite amount of money or a limited amount of money. So these are like real business decisions that you have to make. But I guess to the extent, especially if you have somebody in Japan who's interested, it's definitely worth considering or taking a hard look at.
Cool.
So I guess then I guess I always like to ask these two questions. What was, you would say, your biggest breakthrough with the product and kind of going through this whole process, and then maybe it was the biggest challenge? It seems like the biggest challenge, you already maybe said it with the manufacturing, that kind of blip or whatnot, but can you kind of maybe say what was your biggest challenge as well as your biggest breakthrough with the product?
Yeah. And if you wouldn't mind giving me 10 seconds, I need to plug my computer in.
Oh, for sure. No worries.
10 seconds.
No worries.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries.
I'm back. So yeah, in terms of biggest biggest challenge, absolutely. It was, having to pull the plug on a manufacturer and decide if I wanted to, finish with this product altogether or actually continue to pursue it. It's not even a question that was my biggest challenge. Gotcha. And then another thing, I'll just share this quick story because this is kind of a smaller challenge that I had. But, most people, when they have products, they get a warehouse space. I was looking for warehouse space and it was all just so expensive. And it scared me, to be able to be paying that monthly. And so I opted to go the route of having a storage space. And for your listeners, if anyone is creating a product out there, it is a good way to save. I went from, warehouse space would have cost me around $1,600 a month, which is, it's like paying rent to live. It was a lot to me. And so I went to storage, which is costing me like $400 a month. So a good little tip if you can go that route. Now, there is a challenge there, and that's what I'm going to talk about. And it was actually getting the inventory into the storage unit. Because with a warehouse space, you could have forklifts and pallets, and it's a lot more efficient. But getting everything from truck that was parked outside of a storage facility, having to unload it into my space, it was crazy. It was like five guys. We were drenched in sweat, like moving boxes, and it took hours. And there were things that, didn't fit properly, and it was a challenge. But we did get it done. But I will say I'm saving a ton of money right now, having gone down that route. Yep. And I hope to one day be able to have a warehouse space. I mean, that's what I should have. But I am able to save a lot that way. And for anybody listening that's just starting out, it is a way to save if you can manage it.
Gotcha. No, and that makes sense. Again, we talked about that, especially as you're in the startup phase. You're not cutting corners, but you're definitely trying to balance. Okay, do I really need this? Is it maybe a less expensive option? So that's definitely a real thing. So it seems like you're able to at least kind of get it through it successfully up until this point in time. And like you said, hopefully one day you have that kind of big warehouse space and all is well. So then I guess as far as the breakthrough, what would you say was your biggest breakthrough with the whole process? Because I would imagine that, especially those, when you get that big break, you're like, oh, thankfully this happened. Maybe it was that first sale, or maybe it was that kind of that product being kind of completed and ready for sale to be sold.
Actually, yeah. Honestly, so I'm selling on Shopify, and when you make a sale on Shopify and you have the app on your phone, it makes this cha-ching sound. And yeah. And when I got my first sale and my phone went cha-ching, I was with my wife, and it was the coolest moment. Like we were like celebrating, like, oh my God, did your phone just go cha-ching? Like, I just made a sale. It was my first sale. Really, when you start a product and you take it to market and someone actually pays money for your idea that you were able to turn into a real product. No one, when people see products online, a lot of people don't even think about what someone went through to create that. And it's funny because there's so many trolls out there that are like commenting and making fun of products. And, I see ads all the time where people are like putting a laughing emoji in their ads. But what really goes into it is so much work and time and risk, like people are risking a lot. And that's the great thing about, living in this country is you can take those risks and they could really pay off.
Right.
But yeah, to answer your question, that first sale, that first cha-ching, it was the biggest breakthrough and really accomplishment. One of the biggest accomplishments that I've had in my life.
Nice. Again, we were talking off air and I was saying, hey man, just being able to create something, bring it to life in terms of an actual product and then have other people buy it, I think is a very underrated, under-talked about, underappreciated thing here, just in life in general, but especially here in the U.S. where, man, it's because like it's a lot of ups and downs and whatnot to be able to get to that point and to be able to do that and have that feeling. I would imagine that it has to be an amazing feeling at that point. So I guess maybe with the final two questions here, number one, what goal would you get or what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs? So I would imagine that there's some people watching this who are maybe kind of in and out. They're doing the kind of the jump rope, the double dutch thing. Do I kind of get off into it? Do I not get off into it? Yeah, I have my day job. Again, we talked about earlier, you don't necessarily have to quit your day job to be an entrepreneur or bring something to life and kind of sell it. But they're just one reason or another are on the fence. What advice would you give to those aspiring entrepreneurs? Again, whether it's to say go all in or, hey, consider these things before you decide to go all in.
So there's a really famous quote, and it's that you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So my advice is that you have to just go for it because you're not going to wake up one day and say, oh, I'm ready today. I'm ready to start. It doesn't just, you can't wait for that moment. If you're going to start, if you have an idea and you're confident in yourself and you know that you could put in the work and that you could even, finance something like this, just do it because time's just going to go by. And if you don't take that shot, you're never going to make anything. Nothing is going to come from it. And I know that, because I listen to a lot of these successful people and I read their books and I see like, that's the common theme that you see that they say in the most basic form. People that are really successful, they will say, you just need to take that shot. You need to do it. You need to get up off your butt and just start and just believe in yourself. And I know that I'm sure a lot of your listeners are probably very hard workers. I'm also a hard worker. You just put in the work and believe in yourself and know that you can get it done. You could take a product to market. It's doable. And there are a lot of resources now. You have the internet, you have all the information you need at your fingertips. Like we live in a day and age where if you have a question, you could pretty much get it answered within seconds.
Absolutely.
So go out there, do your research, learn whatever you can, listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos. It's all out there. The information's all out there. Just go for it and hit that go button and just start. Don't wait. That's my advice.
I like that. I love everything about that. So then I guess maybe the last question here is, how can people follow you and how can people purchase the product, more importantly?
Yeah, so bolagrills.com, BOLA grills.com. And on there, you could see the product, you could see the attachments, you could see some videos on how to use it. And then at the bottom right of the website is the links to all my social media. Okay. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And really, I will say I am not a social media person, but I just hired someone.
Okay, nice.
They actually started yesterday, so they're going to be creating content and posting on all of those socials. So if you do start following me now or in the next few days, just know there's not a lot of content now, but it's going to be consistent and you're going to see some good, delicious food being made. So, I don't want to make you too hungry, but follow and you'll see some good food being cooked, some good grilling experiences being shared. And hopefully it's some motivation for you as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'll definitely put those links in the description once this, the podcast comes out. Look at talking about all the food. It definitely has made me hungry. I unfortunately haven't eaten a day, and it's just past 2:00 here on the East Coast. So I'm starving. I'm not sure if this helped out or not. I definitely didn't plan on not eating before this interview, but it just kind of worked out like that. No, well, audience, hopefully you guys got something out of this. David, he gave you guys the real of kind of the ups and the downs of it, but also, these kind of moments of satisfaction when you get that first sale on your phone or being able to get kind of a working prototype and whatnot. So, man, this was a good one. I think this was a very authentic a conversation. And again, him talking about, hey, I didn't know anything, or at least I didn't know a lot of the stuff that I would have later learned going through the process. So you don't have to be an expert at kind of what it is that you're kind of trying to do. A lot of this stuff you are going to learn on the fly, as well as, again, being able to go to YouTube or Google or the social media platforms to kind of get educated. So use them as a resource, as well as obviously, what we're doing over here at Everything Intellectual Property and the videos that we kind of create, at least on the IP side of things, to try to be helpful to you. Hopefully you guys got something out of that. And until next week, audience, you guys take care.